Okay. Good evening. Today is March 17th, 2025. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. The time is 5:46, and I'm calling the meeting to order for the Charter Review Committee. We have 4 members of the committee present, therefore we have a quorum. That being said, opening the meeting, and the first item on the agenda is the review and acceptance of the meeting minutes of our February 24th session. I'll open the floor to discussion. Any discussion on the meeting minutes?
I just have some minutia. The location is a senior center. It should be updated to the Paxton Public Safety Complex. Currently
Thank
listed
you.
as senior
Good
center.
catch. All right, I will make that correction. Thank you.
And then the other one is the terminology, right? So Board of Selectmen, we're not using that anymore, right? It's Select Board,
It's select board.
Select Board. So there's a couple instances of select,
There's a lot. I can change it.
yeah. So that's,
All right, great.
Let's select board.
Yep, Paxton Safety Complex and select board. All right.
and then like, I think Julia should be Select Board Liaison rather than Select Women Liaison.
Okay.
And there's a few. So what would the abbreviation for Select Board be? Would it be SB? Because in all, like, throughout the
SB.
town, there's a lot of BOS.
Yeah, Board of Selectmen,
Yeah,
yes,
so-
but SB is the current,
And that's throughout, we're in that transition mode, I think. We're all-
Correct.
All
That's
kinds of
correct.
stuff still has BOS in
Yep.
it.
all right. Any other feedback, comments, corrections,
No, I thought.
minutia?
I thought the notes were good.
I thought, yes, I thought, Megan, you did another great job.
Thank
All right.
you.
Taking those changes into consideration, can I have a motion for the minutes, understanding that those corrections are being made, can we have a motion for the minutes to be accepted?
I make a motion to accept the minutes?
Second?
Seconded.
Gary seconds. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Any further discussion? Any abstentions? Hearing none? Meeting minutes are accepted. Megan, are you ready, or do you need a couple seconds to collect your thoughts?
I'm ready as ever, I think. The only thing I still need a little more time on is the draft key messages. I'm almost done with that. The rest of the stuff ready to tackle.
All right, great.
I think he meant
Oh,
just for the meeting.
I just meant
You
for the
ready to
meeting, the agenda.
I'm ready.
You're ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Diving in.
All right, let's go. 3A, what is the message that we want to convey at this time? You know, we've talked about what needs to be our catchphrase, or what is that message that needs to be communicated throughout all of our communications around engagement of residents, employees, officials. What does that message need to be? And the reason I think it's important we get that established first, we have, in a very, very short time, believe it or not, less than 2 months, we have the Springtown meeting. And we've committed to having a newsletter available for print and distribution at that town meeting. That also needs to be reviewed by the TA/select board. I don't think it needs to go to legal, but they may, if there's a question they want. My point is, we need to give them a window of opportunity to do that. I would say the last meeting in April, which, by the way, is when we owe the select board and our next formal update, I think that should be our target date for that draft newsletter to be, to be reviewed. Does that seem reasonable? Okay.
I think so. And that's for the town meeting newsletter?
That's for the town meeting newsletter.
And what does that look like? Is that just,
That's anything we want to create.
oh, okay. And it's just to be
We have
distributed?
we have an open situation here.
But I meant the format. Is that just distributed at the town meeting?
Yes.
Oh,
There'll be a hard copy distributed
Oh.
at the town meeting.
Yeah.
I view that more as a flyer, right? Like as a,
Okay.
Correct, a flyer,
Oh,
a
okay.
newsletter,
I got it.
whatever we think is appropriate.
with like talking points, and like bullet points and a call
Yeah.
to action of some kind.
Yeah.
So, from my perspective, there's not going to be a lot of content or substance to whatever we are doing yet, because we're not there yet, come the spring meeting. I think that there is an update as to not only just our charge, but the process that we have undertaken and the process that we are going to undertake to bring this to completion. I think that we're able to do that, and if the town hears that and the residents hear that as to the process that we're going through, I think that that's the goal for us at this point in time until we shift into that information sharing stage, and we're not there yet,
As well as the transparency tour.
which is the end.
Right. That being said, however, we need to engage them in some way to where they're excited about, or first aware, excited about what we're trying to do, that they feel there's value. You're correct. We're not going to have a lot of, but I think we need to somehow communicate intent, our plan, how we are progressing. It doesn't need to be anything big,
Yeah.
but it's all things that you mentioned, in a format that they can take to. As far as I'm concerned, what I would like to see coming out of that, every person, whether they're employee, official, or resident, that pick up that flyer and take it home, I want them to be so interested that they then follow us, right, with the meeting minutes, that we may even have, the public show up to some of our meetings. I mean, we want to start that engagement.
So the question comes down is, why is this important to you? Not you individually, but to
Correct.
you as the reader who's reading it.
Correct.
That becomes the question that we can answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
that should be,
The key
What our
messages.
the key
Yeah,
message.
and
Right.
we had a good brainstorm, so I've got to start on that.
okay,
To share with the team, or the group, sorry, work mode to committee mode. But I'm kind of feeling that this town meeting newsletter would be the same as our introduction in the landmark in TNG. Almost newsletter-ish, but only do it once. Could be
well,
consistent.
certainly the content
Yeah,
will be
and the
leveraged
additional
over and
content.
over and over again. Yeah.
I do think we should in this newsletter, if we can establish when those fall coffee hours would be realistically, we should add the date so that we're constantly promoting them to get the public's, another opportunity for them to come sit with us and learn.
Should we put a kind of a time box around it as opposed to specific dates? Because I think specific dates at this point would be difficult.
Okay. The more specific we can get, if we can say we're going to do, a fall one and we can coincide with any mailings. I know there's not a mailing until January of next year, so we could do one in the fall and one in the spring of 2026 and get it that way, but we could just earmark some things.
We can. One of my updates for all of you is I have submitted our budget requirements for fiscal year '26, which begins July 1. And in it, I put down the cost of first-class full mailing for all 1,620 residential entities, whether they be homes, condos, apartments, whatever, right? I've provisioned for that. I've also provisioned for supplies, for posters, for all kinds of things. I basically put in $2,500 for us
Nice.
to leverage, beginning in July all the way. So,
But I think to go back to what you're saying, I think we should have a specific invitation for a way for them to participate in the process. So maybe we set up an event for like a couple weeks after a town meeting. So they leave town meeting with a way they can participate in this process, whether it's in mid-May, a coffee thing in mid-May. So, right, so then, again, we're building out a case, so at the end of it, we can say, hey, you were invited to this in mid-May, you were invited to this in the fall, you were invited, like, because I think we want to make it as easy as possible for people to participate in the process.
Agreed.
Steve?
David, Gary, quick question.
Gary.
When we talked to Cindy at the COA, we asked, did we not, if we could leverage the COA dining room for like a coffee hour?
I think she offered that opportunity.
Yes. My bottom line is, so we have a location. Okay, David?
Along the lines of that newsletter that we're talking about, I have just two thoughts. One is substantive and one is kind of procedural. I mean, with all due respect to the handouts at the last town meeting, the number of people that were there, but there were not enough of these documents so that people were sharing, people were upset. And this was even after people had left the meeting because they didn't have documentation. And so we have to make sure that, we have more than enough. I mean, if we walk out of there carrying an armload of them, well, we'll find other places to put them. And also along that same line, we've done some discussions, obviously, with the stakeholders that we've met with, and there's still on the list. But one of the questions that has come up to, and I've asked it a couple of times, is what about these other entities that are around town that aren't functions of the town itself, but they're related to the town? They do things. There's the Paxton Garden Club, there's the Friends of the Library, there's the Friends of the COA. Those are built-in groups, and we might want to reach out to them so that we can partake of, their membership and, get something in their own documentation that they send out. I know some of them have Facebook pages and things like that. So that's the two of the preliminary things. But one of the things I like to point out and ask, maybe you guys consider, and I'll pass this around so you can see it. I'll obviously send a copy if anybody wants. But in my role of doing some research and drafting out what may be a charter, or at least a charter to present to everybody here, I think it's a good idea, and I found at least two other towns that had done this, to have a section called the preamble, which is exactly that, sort of an answer, a question: why do we care about the charter? Well, and I have a draft paragraph which I'll pass around. I'll start with Gary, if that's okay. And you can read it, section 1-2. Don't worry about the other stuff. Although if anybody wants to comment on section 1.3, I'd appreciate that. And I'll make a copy that can be, distributed with the minutes.
It would be good to get on those agendas if we could. All these subcommittees, the garden club, all of them, and then flyers, stacks of the flyers could be left at Carlos's, at the safety complex, at the library. So we kind of hit a lot of places with that same message.
I don't think we can over-communicate.
I don't think so
I don't
either.
think we can over-engage relative to the community. I don't think that's possible, right? The other thing I would suggest is the Landmark and Telegraph and Gazette articles, as well as the Paxton News. My expectation, based upon my interaction with Ken Cleveland, is as follows. The Paxton News, we probably will submit something. To your point, Megan, we should be able to leverage that newsletter, flyer, whatever the heck you want to call it, and make sure it's appropriate for that distribution. The Telegram and Gazette and Landmark, I think, is going to be a different experience, and I may be wrong. But my thought is, Ken Cleveland has asked at some point when we're ready, he wants to come and participate in our committee meeting.
Nice.
And he's going to basically interview us, okay, as a correspondent. And he will write his article based on that and then submit it to the editors of the two publications. So hopefully we just leverage what we're creating, and it's easy and it answers many of his questions, but I'm just setting the context for you to understand. We may get either additional questions or he may take us off in a different direction. Fair? Yeah.
And to that point, I've noticed that some of the newspapers in some of the towns that we've had sample charters, they have some articles, and it might not be a bad idea for us to kind of do some homework to read what those articles look like so that we can be prepared to,
Thank you.
have answers to the questions that might be asked or were asked, or
All
we
right.
can ask ourselves.
So getting back to our 3A, do you have a draft of a message that you want to share with us tonight, or?
Not tonight, but I will on our next meeting, and I think that will drive, I could do a draft of the newsletter as well,
Okay,
because I think the two will go hand in hand.
all right, all right.
But we could entertain one other thing on here in addition to those coffee hours. So if we can land a date or a time frame, we can add that. But I do think we should consider a table at the Paxton Days with all of our
Agreed.
charter, and we can hand out more of those newsletters, copies then, and just garner some support. If people, I know we also have a website that we can use on the town, and we should start to fill it with a lot of the stuff that we're doing and the dates.
Yes, and,
Do-
and that, again, if we can create what the content we desire to be,
Okay.
it's just a quick sharing email to Lori Becker, who is the town clerk and the website administrator, and copy us. And she should be able to, A, put it on our committee home site, but also on the home site of the entire, website for Paxton. She could also put a little hook that says, update from, the Charter Review Committee. Please click on the link below and, get an update.
So here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the original timeline that we have talked about,
Yes,
one being the information gathering stage, then the information sharing stage, and then the transparency tour. The thought process at the time was that the transparency tour would be with the residents of the town,
yes,
and that we'd have something of substance with the charter that we can share and get feedback from.
correct.
We also had at that point in time then some feedback prior to that moment, some feedback from the department heads, the boards, et cetera, that were on the right page, that were not giving something to the residents that the other committees have not already seen.
Correct. What we committed to was during the information sharing, we
Right.
would loop back with everybody we interviewed, everybody we interacted with, and give them a draft of the charter.
Right, and my question is, if we set these meetings up with these coffee hours in the fall, before we have that process completed, what's our goal for the coffee hours? Because we can't give them something then that has not yet been approved or affirmed by the board.
I think, from what I'm hearing from Megan, actually, I should let you speak, but what I understood you to say is we're keeping them informed as to what we're doing. We are not delivering the final product or
Correct.
even a draft for them to review.
Correct.
It's getting them engaged and keeping them engaged and their interest up by us constantly communicating with them. Is that not what you were
Yeah,
going
that's
for?
exactly it. And I think it's asking them some of the similar questions that you've asked the other group sessions, just to get their feedback. Maybe they have an opinion on what that charter would be. And so these coffee hours would be sharing what we're doing, an update, where we are in the process if they want to know, but also to say, what do you think? Like, are we, just get their feedback, same line of questioning.
Yeah.
When is our information gathering done? Where, in terms of the timeline?
What we tentatively have is a schedule. Our first, from when we started, and we can talk about later on all the interviews we've done. Our information gathering is basically when we started all the way till tentatively end of June and maybe into July. And we are well on our way,
Okay.
well on our way.
But I think part of Gary's point is interesting, right? Because maybe we should have those coffee houses during the information gathering, right? Maybe, because in some ways, if they say, oh, that's not the direction we want to go in at all, and they're telling us that in October, that's not as helpful as having that information in June, right? It makes sense. It depends on how we want to use the coffee houses. If they're information gathering coffee houses, they should be in the information gathering stage, right?
Do we think the greater public is going to give us
I-
anything?
Okay, I would, my opinion, this is Steve Robesco's opinion. A, the general public or residents have never worked in a municipality and will not understand until we educate, right, what a charter should be. If we educate and begin that dialogue, what we, the three of us, have found, people all of a sudden open up, they understand, and they volunteer information. It's not like we have to ask. It just comes out, all right? So I think the approach should be, we're giving them information, we're giving them a status, and as a result, a bonus, they come back with opinions, insights, things they want to see.
One of the things that I've noticed, I mean, there are people out there that are waiting. People that my neighbors and people that I see around town or whatever, and they're saying, so what is the charter committee doing? And then, of course, I'm not a spokesperson or anything like that. That's one of those things that we should, review them to come watch it, what we're doing on television. I mean, that's what it's there for, and that's, I see the legislature's working on doing more, extending the Zoom-type meetings and things like that, so, we're referring them to that, but we had one meeting, and I won't mention who, but, the person was thinking, I don't have anything to say, and they said that to me before the meeting that actually was scheduled. And lo and behold, it was one of the best meetings, I think, that we had. I mean,
She talked for 48 minutes,
yes.
but she didn't have anything to say.
Yeah, I have nothing to say, she said. I don't know what I'm going to say. And then for 48 minutes, and good information. Good information. So, and the residents are just waiting for us to give them some sort of a direction to go. And I have no doubt that they will participate. I mean, ultimately, the goal is to have those people that we meet with stand up at the town meeting, next year and say, yes, we're voting for the, and have a resounding, resounding response, so that we've done what they want, what they need. And we know something about a lot of law departments want and need, and it's gonna get even better. I mean,
Well, in
Are you
reading,
thinking it's too late?
well, I'm thinking if we're gonna gather information,
Yeah.
the best part to do that is earlier in the process, right? If we think about, I like how Gary's laying it out, right? There's information gathering, there's transparency, then there's delivery, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense, like, it's easier to incorporate feedback, and we'll take feedback at any time, but it's easy to incorporate the feedback if it's early. And
Yeah.
that might not be realistic, we might not be ready, they might not be ready to give it to us.
We have the three phases basically laid out, right? They have information sharing, or gathering rather, which we're in now. Come July through tentatively end of the year, we're doing what we call information sharing, and that's where we have done our job, and part of that phase is us assimilating all the things that we've heard and create a new charter. And by the way, out of this exercise to date, we've discovered we have to review contracts, we have to review bylaws, the organizational chart isn't even close to being correct. The bylaws, 67% of them are not even adopted properly and not written. There's been all kinds of aha moments for the three of us as we have interviewed people.
That's the next chapter after we do this.
Yeah. And so the bottom line is, what we've committed in discussion is, yes, we're going to have a draft charter. Yes, the organizational chart will be corrected and be part of that with clear roles and responsibilities and all that defined. We're going to have another document that we hand the select board, which is observations that these are things we've captured that have been said to us that are not appropriate, but they need to be aware of. And then there are going to be yet a third document that says recommendations. For example, you better clean up the bylaws. You know, you better do this, you better do, and that's the point, you know.
But I think in terms of the timing of these, whenever we have them, they're valuable. But the purpose has changed slightly, right? Like if we
Correct.
have it in June, it's more information gathering. If we have it in October, it's more sharing, transparency, sharing where we're at.
Correct.
Right? So it depends on the purpose, right? And
That's
no matter when we have them, they're valuable. But it is, in reading through the interview notes, it is interesting because the need for this is very clear, right?
Oh, my God.
Because
yes.
people don't know who they're supposed to, there's inconsistencies in who reports to who. Some people, because they're saying like, oh, well, the charter says I report to this person, but in practice I report to this person.
Yep.
Or the charter says it's a strong fire chief, or this says it isn't, whatever. But it's interesting. So just the consistency of that is the,
We have to get it out of the contracts. I mean, the contracts are good, but they are way, way at the bottom of the totem pole of, you know, where you go for authorities in
Correct.
government. And yeah, it's just not right, it's just not fair for a contract to have to be the mechanism for some official to say, this is who I report to. Especially when there's conflict in the documentation, charter
Yes, sir.
or pretend charter, whatever it is. You know, it's a contradiction, and the one up at the top always wins, so that the contract ultimately is.
but at the end of the
And that's
day, we're
what-
going to be able to say, we resolved all these things.
Correct.
And there's a long,
Yeah.
there's a
That's
long
right.
issue.
And guess what's at the top of the list for authority? The charter.
Charter.
The charter supersedes everything else.
It's the Constitution. I mean, think of that.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be.
Yeah.
So I'm still, I believe, in the minority here for a minute, in the sense that I think that the meetings with the residents should be later, and much later.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with you.
Well-
I'm thinking they're saying now, let's have multiple meetings, okay? And maybe we start in June with a coffee hour and just we share what's going on.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
I have no objection to doing that or sharing any kind of information. I can picture, though, in terms of substance, that we're not in a position to make those types of recommendations or even give the whys as to why anything is being done specifically. So if I'm envisioning a coffee house and we say, here's what we're doing, and we know that there's going to be some changes made, we can't, as our mission says, you know, here's the change and here's the reason why. We can't issue those reasons
no,
why yet.
absolutely not.
We're early.
No,
So I'm trying to be pragmatic about it because we're doing a lot right now in terms of meetings. You know, we're probably going to end up with 40 or 50 meetings with just the employees, the boards, and the committees between now, when we first started, and probably June or July.
correct.
Then we as a group are going to end up having to do some drafting and some reviewing and trying to resolve our concerns before we then go back to the sharing stage. I think that pragmatically, we want to have a product that we can give to the town and the residents come 2026. If all we want is before that is just to share what we're doing, then that's great. But if we're going to share substance, I think we have to hold off.
I actually like that. We could use the town Paxton days if we have a table, just to create awareness that we're doing this. There's,
Correct.
whatever we want. but have more solid information to share at a coffee hour in the fall and in the spring that breaks out in little bite-sized pieces. We won't show them all the stuff that we're doing, but say, here are 3 things that we are working on in the charter, and they are this. And hopefully by, say, October, we'll have 3 or 4 things that we will have established.
What's the matter, what is the matter with taking that approach for the newsletter or the
Yeah.
flyer or whatever?
Oh, absolutely.
Or Springtown meeting, and then you know everybody's not gonna be there, right? So you could, in June or July, hold a coffee hour, right? Invite people, whoever comes, right? You put it on the electronic board outside, and you put it on the website, and people show up, and again, you just reinforce what you shared about our approach and what's going on, and ask them if they have any questions, or if they have, anything they wanna say or give to us, all right? But yeah, we don't wanna share anything of substance. Nothing, 0.
We're
Not in a place to until
we're
beginning
ready.
of next year.
Yeah.
We're just not, right?
I mean, the one thing that we know as a committee is that we're going to resolve some conflicts. Overall, large picture, that's going to be our goal, to make sure the charter addresses any inconsistencies that may currently exist. We know that.
Right, and it's also going to increase awareness and
Right.
understanding.
So if we can get the highlights of, here is what the charter is here's the charter is now.
Yep.
Here's what it's going to do for us as a town.
Right,
I think that may be an approach to take.
sounds rock solid to me.
Gary, let me just say 2 things. One is that I don't think you're in the minority. I mean, I think we all agree with you. Part of the concept of the philosophy of these things is that information exchange is something that's going to be going, I mean, it's an initial stage right now, but it's also going to go all the way to the end, because people are going to, there's somebody, we may be on the floor of the town meeting next year and have somebody say, I move to amend something or other. Well, ideally, we would have encountered that before, so that we're not sitting there saying, oh, wow, why didn't we think of that, or why didn't we do that? But I'll share one example. Someone that I was talking to said, well, what are you going to put in the charter? Well, you can look that up and read that. We don't know what we're going to put in because we're trying to get things from people who, what do they want? Well, I know one thing that I would like to have. I would like to understand how the heck the town meeting is run. I mean, I don't understand, I want to stand up and talk, but I can't talk, and then somebody says, move the question and all that. I'm not suggesting there are some things we can put in the charter about town meeting, and not just, who votes.
I think we did. I think that was one of the brainstorms in our very first meeting.
Correct. And if you look at
Yeah.
the table of
So
contents.
we're on track with that. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, if you
So
look at the
we
table
are-
of contents that's been drafted,
That's one of them.
it's there.
Yeah.
There's a section to put it in.
It's
I think at this time what is critical, for a variety of reasons. Number one of the things that we should jump on fairly quickly, beside creating the content for the message, for the flyer, newsletter, whatever, I believe it's imperative that we jump on the opportunity to update our home committee webpage with a hook from the overall town homepage to our specific committee page, for 2 reasons. Number one, it's a vehicle to provide an update or an awareness of, yes, the committee's working hard, these are the things, that kind of stuff. But also, frankly, very selfishly, our open position, our 7th member opening, is buried on like 3 layers within the website with all the other open positions. And unless somebody is really looking for what are the open positions that I can volunteer to, you're not going to see it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'd somehow like to encourage,
We put that on the town website, social media. We share the job description, kind of. I don't know.
sure.
Is it a link? Is there a job description link on the town website?
I think you just, our existing homepage, they talk about the mission.
Just share that page and say, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Paxton Neighbors, and what's the other one? Something else.
Be this right here, which is buried, you know, this is the Charter Review Committee mission, membership, scope of work, timeline. The timeline needs to be fixed, but, you know, the reality is that, you know, stuff is out there, just that we need to, I mean, I ideally in some of these meetings, like to say to somebody, not the town officials, but, you know, if you've got a relative that would be interested and lives in Paxton, we have an opening, and we certainly could use that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with us recruiting. It's better to have, you know, a list of people who might be interested on the next version, if that's happening, but definitely getting somebody on to finish this. You know, we've already been allowed to have so many members, well, let's get that other member.
And we can use the help.
Yeah.
We could definitely use the help. Okay, Chuck's volunteered to help you on communication, all right? But there's a bunch of us working on several things. And for those of you who haven't noticed, some of my emails to you are like at 4 or 5 in the morning.
I think we all noticed.
And I really don't want to wake up in the morning going, Jesus, I got all this to do, and head to the computer right
Yeah.
away. I'd rather have my first cup of coffee anyway. When do we want Ken Cleveland to come and come to our meeting and interview? I think we're not ready until April. The question is, do we want to do the early April meeting? And by the way, we're back on the 2nd and 4th Monday in April, right? We're going back to that schedule. All right. When do we think we're going to be ready to have him interview us?
I feel like after our next town meeting, or the select board meeting.
Where we sit down and provide an update? All right, well, then that is going to be May. Which I'm okay with, if that's what we think we should do.
I thought we were providing an update to the board in April.
April 24th,
Yeah.
or whatever, 28th, the fourth Monday in April.
You
Keep
know,
me honest.
it might be a good idea to do it before, so that the article gets published before we're doing the update, so that people will come, the article will tell them, hey, come to the update. I mean, I know Rutland has started theirs, and before they even, you know, got going, they had an article in the paper about it.
Yeah, the town meeting is in May of 2025, so we want the article.
Talking
I'm
spring of, David, you couldn't make it. You and I, Gary, had a conversation with the town moderator. And we talked about the possibility of making a presentation at the town meeting this spring.
Right.
Do you recall what Roger said?
5 minutes.
Prior to the official start of the town meeting. Once the town meeting is called to order, the only thing covered are the warrant articles that are contained within the official document of the town meeting. No committee, no function can do a presentation. They go through the warrants and take the vote. Generally, the chair of the select board reads the warrant, and the moderator calls for a vote.
So, again, I may not have the same experience, but typically, as Dave said, someone's going to be asked to talk about what we are proposing. So they're going to say, who wants to address what has been created, whether it be you or Dave or somebody else.
They will ask does anybody in the audience have any questions before they put the warrant to vote? If someone stands up and asks a question, what is this about? What are you talking about? What's been done? Then one of us can stand up and respond.
I thought
But-
at that fall meeting, though, they did put slides up and they walked through all of what we were voting on.
I mean, if you look at the school
Heather
committee,
did a
I'll
presentation.
ask, but it's been my experience that
Yeah.
that's not the case, but I will ask.
Okay.
Again, when Gary and I talked to Roger, his point was, yes, you can, I will be more than happy, before I call the meeting to order, to give you 5, 10, 15, whatever minutes you need to do a presentation, but it will be prior to the town meeting officially starting. And that's my recollection.
Right, but that's not what I'm talking about now for the following year.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
So what we can do, and what we should do, and will do, is we will follow up with our liaison, who happens to be the select board chair, and we will ask the question and get an answer.
And my only reason for even asking is I want to make sure that what we do is successful, and I just don't want it to be put into a position where it's now at the end of a meeting, it's 10:30, everyone's tired, and no one's in the mood to vote yes.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
Or to ask a
And,
question.
and frankly, that's one of the reasons why the communication is so emphasized. You want to
Yeah.
make sure everybody's communicated prior to that meeting.
How do they determine the order of the warrants? Do we know?
You know, that's a great question, Chuck. I have no idea, but again, that'll be part of the things I can ask. I can ask
It would be
you.
great if we could make sure it's one of the.
Not certain.
the stuff you
I
can
have a
get through.
feeling it's in the order they're received, is my feeling. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason beyond that. Okay?
And even whatever order they are on the warrant, the moderator can take them out of order.
Yeah.
Correct.
So-
He
so
can,
it's
he can move them up and down. Especially if two warrants are related and they're not, not side by side. Roger will do that. All right, is there anything else we need to talk about? Item 3.
Yes.
Can you highlight it on the screen?
I don't know why we're not there. Scott, we've lost our screen. I have no idea why.
I've been waiting for this call.
And very patiently, I might add.
You need my closer.
And Scott comes out and does his magic, and there you are.
The
right.
only thing I'd say is F, walk through the stakeholders if there's anybody we're missing. So, I mean, I don't know. So right now we have, you've got the managers, the police department. The only thing I don't have is the other boards and committees. So what are we missing? So obviously we've got
Okay,
the Garden
if you
Club,
go-
COA.
Yeah, if you go into our interview,
Oh,
leadership, we have every one of the leaders,
oh, perfect.
both elected, appointed, and assigned. That's under this, and we have everybody. Under boards and committees, we actually have every board and committee
Perfect.
represented.
Okay.
Employees, we actually have 3 employee groups that we either have interviewed or in process or are scheduled to interview. And then I have the 4th tab, we have the 4th tab for residents. I believe all the stakeholders have been identified.
Yeah.
I do not
Okay.
believe there's
Well, we
any
talked about like
outliers.
Garden Club and some of those community groups, and maybe it's not an interview, maybe it's a different level where somebody goes and talks about
I-
the agenda.
I think you
I-
have them, right?
Huh?
Do you have them under boards and committee?
No,
Oh.
because they're not a board,
Oh.
committee, or
It's like a-
commission.
Community-
Now,
okay.
It's a
we
separate-
could put them under residents.
Okay.
Yeah,
As resident groups, we certainly can do that and go and talk to them. And I'm more than happy to do that. So the Garden Club, the Friends of the COA, the Friends of the Library, we can put those under residents to start with. Seem reasonable?
And there is some overlap. I mean, people, I mean, we're a small town and, it's, you know, so I mean, we'll be talking to the garden club, we'll also be members of other things, but the bottom line is there are some people that are involved with planting or historical things and whatever, and they're not getting reached. It's better to have some person hear twice what we have to say than to have, a lot of people not hearing once what we have to say.
Is the Lions Club in town and the Women's Club, those are not boards?
Yeah, that's
Those are
the Lions
community,
Club,
right?
the
Okay.
American Legion.
The Lions Club will not allow us to come and talk to them or present,
Really?
Oh,
because anything associated with the town is considered political. It is against the credo of the Lions Club. I was a Lions Club member
Oh.
and was told
interesting.
way back when I wanted to kind of give them an idea as to the types of things that needed to be addressed. And I wasn't even gonna talk about money. But relative to, and I was told no, that conversation cannot occur.
Well, we
So
could do
I'm
the,
on
At
the
a
current
landfill
lines.
Okay.
So I will ask that at our next meeting and just see what their response is.
Yeah,
Yeah, but not everyone really is a town resident right now.
Oh, they're not.
Not everybody. People move and they still
okay.
want to be a member of the line, so.
correct.
Oh, okay.
And interestingly enough, we have found, right, guys, that when we've interviewed employees or managers or department heads, many of them are not residents of the town.
Wow.
I think I asked the question at one point about, what do you think about a residency requirement? And it was like, we will never be able to still fill our positions. I mean, it's true. I mean, there's some people are working in the town of Paxton for the town of Paxton government that are driving from a good appreciable distance away. But so what, you know? I mean, they are working here. I mean, they are a stakeholder. It's like, you know, we're not gonna say we have to meet with every registered voter or that you have to be a registered voter. There are residents who aren't registered voters, but maybe they'll wanna register and vote because we reached out to them and they decided that, hey, maybe there's something I should be going to town meeting for.
And I guarantee you, we will not be talking to all the residents either. Or even reach them.
Probably not.
Okay, that'll be a.
could knock on
That
doors.
is, you know, typically, when they have someone show up at a very hotly debated or interested town meeting, you may have 150 people, all right, of a resident base of 5,000, okay? So if we reach 5 to 10% of the residents and actually reach them, we're gonna be doing a phenomenal job. Okay? I'm just trying to set expectation.
I think, Chuck, one thing I could ask for help with too is I think we should pull together a social media campaign for some of these things of how we get, there's a lot of chatter on some of these groups, so
Yeah.
may as well use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there, if people have feedback or they want to get involved or they have a suggestion, where are we sending them? So give
Send
out,
them to
you
me.
want your email to be on all this documentation?
Send them to me or Lori Becker, and
Okay.
Lori Becker can send them on to us.
I didn't know if we needed like create a charter inbox
No.
How
specific to
about a
this.
charter email, your charter at Paxton, you know, those kind of
Then
things.
you're not
Goes to you,
personally
and then you can
flooded.
farm it out if you see fit.
You could still oversee it, but then your personal email might be inundated.
You know what? It's a great question. Ask Lori. Maybe
Okay.
she can set something up to where it's a bucket and then occasionally she sends it to us.
Okay. I
That'd
can
be
do
a
that.
great idea. Yes, I don't want to see a gazillion emails.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Appreciate that. All right. Anything else around item 3? I think this was a great discussion tonight. I think we made a lot of, we had a lot of good dialogue. Megan, have we covered everything that you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I think so. So I'll put these drafts together, and then I think, as I think through this, a communication timeline now, because we're starting to put some actual things, and I'll include on that when these newsletters might go out,
Okay?
when the meetings will be and what we're sharing.
Yep.
It's a town event, any emails, campaigns that we're pushing out, any social campaigns we push out, and then some dates for those coffee hours.
Excellent. Can I ask one thing then? If you, when you do that,
Uh-huh.
and I do say when you do that, can you then put said things
In the community,
in our, where is it?
you want it in the communication plan folder?
Actually, what I'd like it in,
Oh, the committee calendar, maybe.
where's our, yeah, you could put it in the committee calendar, although I will admit to you, I have not been real good about that. Where's our milestones? I was looking for the milestones. Oh, I guess that would be in the charter task book?
I think so.
Yeah, could we put it under the tab here? The charter milestones? And if you want to add another cell to this, Chuck, you can help her, right? Add another cell?
I
You
can,
might not have access to that.
Oh, because we can't-
You can't have more than 3 people.
Right.
3 or 4? 3. No, 4.
Does that go against,
If we have
open
four,
meeting if we're adding documentation?
No,
Not
if we
opinion?
add-
Oh, that's what the point of that message was.
Well,
Yeah.
so this document right now, I think only 3 people have access to it. I think it's Gary, Steve, and myself.
all right,
So if we add another person, then I think that, my understanding is that's a violation. The
of open law, yeah, because it's now a quorum and should be only discussed in an open meeting.
So everybody can see it, but only 3 people can edit it. So there's
So
just
if
a-
you want to send it to.
I could
yeah,
send it to Chuck. He
Bingo.
can add it.
Bingo,
All right.
all right? Good? All right, Chuck, did you want to kind of share what you set up for our discussion?
Yeah, so I went through the documents based on the last meeting to ensure that we were in compliance with the open meeting law in terms of you can't have more than a quorum. You can't have a quorum with the ability to edit a document, because you're almost like meeting within the document.
Right.
So everybody still has access, but only 3 people have editing capabilities in the documents now.
Correct.
And we can change who has editing capabilities, and it's,
Yeah, and if at any time anybody needs to edit, I am more than happy to step down, and he can take my name off and put yours on. I have no problem with that, trust me.
there's a document within the front too that says who has access. So it has access, has all the folders in it, and it says who has access to those folders, so if there's any question.
Just remember, though, that if you're putting something on there, and as long as it doesn't rise to the level of being a deliberation, it's just an item proposed for new business, and you can put everything that you want up there, as long as you're not discussing it. And that message that I sent out yesterday, there's the statute right there, which clearly defines what a deliberation is and what it isn't. I mean, and it's not just as simply as, no, you don't have to have a problem scheduling meetings. You can get into putting information out there and for you to look at, and then, as long as you don't discuss it.
Right.
Yeah,
If it's a PDF, if it's something
Which
that
is-
can't edit, we're golden, right? If
right, which is
nobody
why
can
you
edit.
all have access to look at anything.
Look at, yeah.
All right?
But like this document, you can edit it. If too many people can edit it, that's the issue.
All right, and the final thing I wanted to cover in like 2 minutes is we have been really active and made great progress, and actually every one of the people under leadership have been reached out to, and we've tried to schedule interviews and appointments with. We also have made, as of the last week, significant progress, in reaching out to all the boards and committees. Now, if you'll note, there's notes on the side here. With the exception of 4 committees and commissions or boards, I have reached out personally to every one of the chairs or point person, and I'm awaiting their response and/or a formal schedule. Otherwise, we have, as you can see, April, we're going to be quite busy with having conversations with different boards. We are meeting tonight with the planning board, as I said, right after this. And the light board is Wednesday?
This week?
No, it's the 18th. My bad. Sorry, guys.
Tomorrow, 5:30, I thought.
Yep. Bingo. Glad I looked. It's 3:18. So tomorrow we will actually sit down with the light board.
What time is that?
You have been sent an invite.
I know, but you know.
Yeah, should we accept those invites, or you just letting us know for awareness? Do you need us to attend those?
What has been to date is we're just targeting 2 or 3 people.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I didn't accept
Now-
any of them.
Correct. Now, if you want to, there are certain boards that are open meeting that you are more than welcome to attend. Like tonight, you can stay for the planning board. Tomorrow night is the light board, and that is an open meeting too.
Oh,
So if you want the invitation, I can forward it to you,
okay.
okay? Would you like me to do that?
I'm good at the moment.
Okay.
Not that I don't want to,
You
but
don't have enough to do.
yeah, right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
In the middle
she
of
has
the
more than enough to do.
Oh.
All right.
So this is a tough week.
Is there any other new business we want to talk to about? All right. Anything else we need to discuss? Hearing none. Can I call for a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes. Do we have to make a note for any question from the public?
Do we have to make any questions for what? I'm sorry?
From the public? Do we have to make a note that we've asked? Any public comment?
Since there are no public here, we're not required to do so. If public had attended, the answer would be yes, I would have asked.
Could they be live?
Well, there's a lot of people that watch it.
They absolutely can deny, I mean,
Is this
No,
live or
is this
just
live?
recorded?
Like,
oh, this is being recorded.
Yes.
so it's not live, it's just
Correct.
recorded. Okay.
That would be a Zoom meeting.
All right.
Live on TV
Live on
TV.
TV.
and YouTube.
And YouTube.
On YouTube.
It is live on YouTube.
All right.
Should we check and see if it's
Calling none,
Yeah, somebody call
I
us.
officially call this meeting adjourned. Thank you for your participation.